I sat in my seat quietly as I was only 12 and didn't know much about what had happened. The grown-ups always kept us kids in the dark, thinking we are too young to know the truth, but the thing was I already knew everything about Tina. Tina is my older sister. She was the friendly, caring one. She knew how to make someone's day, but she was gone now, and as much as I wanted her to come back, she wasn't going to. This Christmas dinner was quiet. We all sat in our seats waiting for the chefs to bring the food to our table. I remember when Christmas used to be fun. Aunt Jenny and Aunt Carol would sit in front of each other face to face, while I was told to sit next to Kevin and Maddie. Mom and Dad would sit in between Aunt Carol and I. Us kids were always told to sit together and give each other company. We would always laugh and play with our foods, and our parents would have to force us to eat the vegetables, but tonight was different. Tonight no one spoke a word. We all sat in silence as we ate our Christmas dinner. Not a single sound came out of anyone's mouth. The only thing heard was the silverware scratching on the plates as we ate. End quote. Dinner is nice. Right, end quote. I questioned as I stared at everyone's face one by one. My eyes shifted from one frown to another. They all acted as if they didn't hear me. I bent my head down facing my food as tears dropped from my eyes and onto my plate. I had enough of this, I thought to myself. I pushed my chair back and got on my feet. End quote. What is wrong with you guys? End quote. I yelled while my hands rolled up in fists. End quote. Why can't you guys be happy for her? End quote. I said as all eyes shifted on me. The shock on my aunts' faces was enough for me to realize what I was doing. But I couldn't back out now. I had enough of them hating on her for no reason. End quote. You guys kicked her out only because she didn't want to follow in your footsteps and chose her own path. She chose to follow her own dreams. You guys should be proud of her, not mourning for her like she is dead. Christmas used to be fun. Now it feels like I'm sitting on a table with complete strangers. End quote. I yelled as I kicked the ground and ran out the door. My vision was blurry from the tears gathering in my eyes. All I saw was my parents' look of disappointment as I ran to my room and fell on my bed crying. I wish things could go back to the way they were. Or Mom and Dad could just accept and believe in Tina. I thought to myself as I wiped away my tears and took the picture frame off my bedside table of me and Tina standing in the snow together. I stared at it for a while, as if I stared at it long enough she would come back. I took her picture out of the frame and put it in my pocket. I grabbed my piggy bank and smashed it on the ground. $45, $50, $57, $60. I had $60 in total. It was enough for me to get a ticket to South Carolina, right? I questioned myself. I grabbed the money, put it in my pocket, and dashed for the door. I ran and ran till I reached the train station and waited for it, then sat in my usual spot. My spot was the same as always. It was near the window, the third row from the second door. Tina and I sat there every time we would visit our uncle. He was the only one who understood Tina and allowed her to live with him when Mom and Dad kicked her out. I sat in my seat and stared out the window crying. I must have fallen asleep because when I woke up I was already there. I remembered Uncle Josh's house because we would go every Christmas morning. I knocked on the door and saw Tina. She hugged me and I began to cry again as I told her everything. End quote. You shouldn't have come alone. Do you know how dangerous it is? End quote. She began to scold me as we hugged and talked for hours. End quote. Well, I told your parents you are here. They will be coming soon. End quote. Uncle Josh said as he picked me up in his arms and continued. End quote. You are a brave girl, you know that. No one would have the strength to come on a train alone, especially at the age of 12. End quote. I giggled as Tina and Uncle Josh set up the blankets and pillows for me to sleep. The next morning we heard a knock on the door after a while and went to open it. Everyone was standing by the door, Aunt Carol and Aunt Jenny along with Maddie and Kevin. Mom and Dad were standing in the back with a look of guilt in their eyes. End quote. We're sorry, Ruby. End quote. They said in unison and walked in. End quote. We were too busy being upset about Tina that we totally neglected your feelings. End quote. Said Dad as he picked me up and sat me on his lap. End quote. We should have known that you were going through a lot too. End quote. added Mom as she hugged me. Aunt Carol and Aunt Jenny sat next to Mom on the bed and began to pat me on my back. End quote. You are right, Ruby, and we are sorry. We should accept that Tina is happy in the field she chose, English literature. We should be happy for her too, end quote, Aunt Carol said as she looked up towards Tina, who had the biggest smile on her face. End quote. Since you all are already here, why don't you guys just spend Christmas dinner here, end quote, Uncle Josh said. Everyone agreed, and that night we all feasted as a happy family again. Mom and Dad even begged Tina to come home again, and she was as happy as we all were.